It has been what, two
About
years, over 2 years since we've been together. Also, this is the first time I have Zoomed with anybody since Hannah. I know that I just had to figure out this whole new laptop, upload the Zoom app, and figure it out again. And I think we're recording. I think the technology, we did a video, the very first one, we called it Nature is Technology. And on that day when we recorded, we had a little bumpy start because that day nature took over technology and I couldn't get my internet working and everything. So yeah, so that was funny that day. And then now, over 2 years later, here we are again, and we are dealing with nature and technology. And Hannah had to like pick up and move to a different room to
yeah,
record.
I was
Yeah.
having issues with my Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But we're good now. We're good
You're
now.
good. Yeah. And Hannah shows up with a pretty little flower in behind her ear. And yeah.
Zinnia. I just grew these from seed,
I love
so finally
Zinnia.
good.
I don't know if you knew this, but they're edible.
Are they really? I was wondering that. I was wondering that because I was thinking about this yesterday. I made a salad for Memorial Day, and I was like, it'd be really nice if those zinnias out there were edible because I have a bunch of them that are blooming. And now that I know that, I'm gonna add them to my salads because I
Oh,
love edible flowers.
I don't know that they taste great, but they are not toxic. So, but I've pickled them before, and they're really pretty. I would put them in the jars, in the pickle jars, where the faces of them would be on the outside, looking out of the jar, and then other things kind of intertwined inside. So that was really fun one year when I did that. And the color doesn't last like more than like a month. So there's something you would pickle and then give and enjoy real soon, kind of.
Yeah, I feel like I'd add it as like a garnish or something, just to
Yeah,
make it look really pretty.
yeah, very nice.
Good to know. My mind is blown right now. We're
Mine's
always teaching each
always
other.
blown when I talk to you. Uh, so Hannah has written a book. Like during this time when we hadn't been like, keeping up with each other, she wrote a book. And I have the book. I received it recently, and on one of my little short videos, I talked about how I got the book, and I waited till yesterday. I waited till yesterday to write in it because we were supposed to film yesterday, and I wanted to wait for like the day that we filmed to open the book and decide like my first thing that I was going to write in it. Um, but anyway, so I did this yesterday. So I'm going to show y'all her book at it again. And I just noticed I notice things different about everything, like whenever, everything in life. You're like, oh, I'm gonna notice another detail. I love the detail of like the lines like that you would write on. So saying that this is, and look at the flowers and Hannah's hair and the flowers up here. And it is the big book of affirmations. We all have those little like I've got one right here, little flip calendars like this, you know, and they're little. And they don't give you space to like really like put your thoughts and all. And Hannah's book does, which I love because I'm a doodler. Like I've got sheets of paper all over my house where I just doodle all the time. And um in her book there are plenty of space for you to be creative. And on that creative note, I was watching something on Gaia a few weeks ago, and I remember a lady talking about the study of the brain, and that when our brains are in creative mode, they go crazy. Like they're really like it's good. And also like future mode, like thinking about the future. So I think instead of like focusing on the past, your brain kind of but then if you're focusing on like the future and your goals, your brain wakes up and starts spinning. And I think that's what our creator wanted us to do,
Absolutely. Yeah.
which is what this book does. Because it gives you space to talk about like what, your future and your now and not your past. So
Mhm.
there's no remember when, in here or that was awful in here. No, it's the now and the future, which keeps you in a creative space. So the flow that we're supposed to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually why I made it, because I'm a very creative person. I mean, I have so many modalities of creation. I mean, I love to garden and I love to grow things from seed, and I paint and I make music and all of that. I mean, we've already discussed all these things, but I love to write and I love to draw and I love to doodle. And I've always noticed that with, journals and stuff that I've had too, is like it never gives me enough space. And I write very big. My handwriting is very big, so I take up a lot of space with my handwriting. So I kind of wanted to incorporate that into my book and, give people the space to take up space and to kind of encourage them not just to take up space on the paper, but also to take up space in life too, because I think a lot of people really box themselves in and keep themselves small and don't want to step on other people's toes. And they miss opportunities in doing so. And I've done that myself, being a people pleaser and all of that and falling into that people pleasing trap, because that's really what it is. We have this tendency to just kind of box ourselves in to keep other people happy. And it was really after I realized, like, no, I need to start taking up space. Like, I'm going to do things big. I'm going to keep expanding. I'm going to keep making people uncomfortable if that's what I need to do. And I want to encourage other people to do that too, if it means that they get where they want to be in life.
Beautiful. I read what I wrote because some of the things you were saying, like, just kind of go along, and we have not talked about this. I've not read this to Hannah. So on the first page, it says express yourself. And first of all, I did not even read this until after I wrote this. And then it kind of was like, what in the world? So I wrote seeing, like, and I underlined it. Seeing how quickly my now reality reflects dreams and thoughts I have had makes me believe, I underline believe also, so seeing and believe, makes me believe in manifestation, that my thoughts give energy a place to manipulate the space around me. Talking about taking up space.
Mm-hmm.
What I think I become, what I dream for my future becomes my present. Pretty dang cool. And then I wrote May 26, 2025, 1910 Lenora Drive. There's my address for everyone. Port Royal, South Carolina. But, and then on the next page, I see that you wrote, I am seeing evidence of these affirmations working quickly. And so then I did write, seeing is believing. So, and that's how I think we're all, when people say, oh, that's a psychic. Well, we're all psychic. If you dream, you're a psychic.
Yeah.
So you've seen it before. Like, you've seen it.
Every single person on planet Earth is a psychic. I mean, we're all meant to be psychically connected. I think that's our natural state of being, but we've just lost connection to that. And, through our way of living and our way of being, it's just kind of become diluted in people. But it's something that I think we're reawakening to. And that's kind of what this whole spiritual awakening is about, is people reawakening to that connection to everything, not just people, but, the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and seeing the consciousness and the life within it, and how all of these things, we collectively share this body, which is, I mean, our planet is a body.
Yeah. And even the planet is going through an awakening,
exactly.
in the same journey that we are, right?
Yeah, we're just microscopic reflections of it. I mean, as above, so below. She is just a macroscopic body, life form that is having her own sacred awakening, and we're the cells of that body, and we have to activate in order for her to have her full activation. Just like, the way that we have cells that completely reamalgamate themselves every, 6 months or every 25 days, or I think hair cells or skin cells replace themselves every 28 days. It's kind of the same way. We're replacing our old ways of being, our old consciousness forms, our old thoughts, our old behaviors in order to be better selves for this body that we inhabit. And it keeps it healthy, the same way our cells have to do the same in order to keep us healthy and in order to keep us, active and moving forward. We're just replicating that process on a more macroscopic level, and so on and so forth into infinity. beyond our understanding. But the Great Awakening is really here. And I think, things like manifestation and activating that part of ourselves is a huge part of it. I mean, I think that's probably one of the most key components to it is learning how to hone that creative ability, and use it for things that aren't destructive, because we've seen a lot of people who kind of use it in a way that's really destructive and can cause harm to other people. And ultimately, I mean, this is kind of the thing that people don't really want to talk about, but like all of those things have their place. Like even the bad, even the things that we see as like, evils and sufferings, it's all just this unified balance that is ultimately contributing to a greater world long term. But I think we can absolutely choose to rise above these lower aspects of ourselves, these shadow forces that can take over and sometimes control us, and make us do things that we later regret. I think we can absolutely arise above those things and be better.
And that goes along with sort of the karma thing, the karma wheel too. Like, so we're gonna keep until we get things right, I feel like, then we don't move on to the next layer, like of the big picture of our life. So,
Absolutely. Yeah,
okay.
everything is cyclical. Everything in life on a macroscopic and microscopic level. Collective experiences that humanity goes through are cyclical. Things that we go through in our individual lives are cyclical. Everything at the end of the day is cyclical. And I think, one misconception about karma is I think a lot of people see it as like a punishment and they're like, oh, it's just this bad thing, but it's really just perspective. That's all it is it's just, a way of giving you perspective on who you are and what you're putting out, and how you can, shift what you're putting out so that you can create change and kind of step outside of that cycle into a new one, into a more resonant one.
So I told Hannah earlier, I said I pulled out an onion. I think this is inspiration for me, the layers of an onion. Um, and the reason I pulled this out is because I've been thinking a whole lot about deja vu lately. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're putting in a pool outside, and the day we were meeting with the guy that before they dug the hole for the pool and all, um, then my husband he points out to the backyard, points out to the marsh, and as he did that, like he's telling the guy, he goes, and I'm thinking about putting a crab dock over there. Well, I've already seen the crab dock, and I remembered him saying this before. Like I saw the crab dock over there. What I remember is not him saying, I'm thinking of putting a crab dock. What I remember is him saying, and there's our crab dock. And so I got
Hmm.
chills that day, and I told even the guy that's going to dug the hole for the pool. I'm sure he was like, this woman's crazy." But I said, "Oh, this is deja vu for me." Like, but even it's a bigger deja vu because I know there's going to be a crab dock there, even though we haven't even gone through the process of asking the city if we can do it. But I'm like,
Yes.
it's going to be there because yeah, it's there, like it's there.
The city's going to make it happen. Like it's
Yeah,
going to work around you.
that's
It's going to work around your desire, because that's how this works. Is we are the operative power. We decide, and everything else will. If we have enough faith and we have enough trust, everything else will just work
yeah.
itself around. But I was going to say, it's funny that you mentioned, how the pool guy probably thought, you
Yeah.
were crazy. It's so funny to think that things like deja vu are so common. Everybody has
Yeah.
deja vu, but it's something that nobody ever really questions. Nobody thinks like, what's going on here?
Yeah, why is that? Like what?
They just kind of tune it out. It's like everything else related to like all of us being psychics and all of us having this intuitive connection to one another. It's like these things are so mundane and fundamental to who we are as a collective. And it's just crazy to me that people are just so numb to it, and they just are so easily tuned out to these things that they just kind of brush them off and they're like, oh, it's just deja vu. It just happens. We don't really know why. It just does. you
Whatever. Yeah.
know?
Like synchronicities. I nobody can tell me that I'm not right about things that show up in my life over and over and over. Um, like even the dolphin yesterday. Where I live, it's not real common for dolphins to come all the way up into this little tidal creek right here. It goes dry, like it's the tide's going down right now. It'll turn to complete mud.
Wow.
And so one morning, just and the way it catches my eye too, I'm like I'm in the house. I'm not like looking out there for the dolphin or but it's just
Yeah,
it's up. Like this means something.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially a dolphin. They're
Yeah.
so symbolic.
Yeah. And so just yesterday, I was on the phone with my friend, and she calls me every day after she gets off work, and we've got a good 45-minute drive of her driving home that we just talk. And I went, I'm standing in the kitchen in here. Like I'm not, that window's over there, and then the river's out there. And I go, I think there's a dolphin. And I said, but it's black. And it was like this big, like, like it. Like I'm thinking, was it a dolphin or was it like a killer whale? It looked so black, It was not a killer whale, but but I just had never seen anything like that. But I didn't get a picture of it. I didn't get it. I was on my AirPod. I was like, "Where's my phone? Where's my phone? I don't know where I left it in the house." I got running around trying to find it. I ran outside with her on the phone. I'm like, "I wish you could see this, but it was just for me. It was just for me."
That's what I was gonna say. It was only meant for you to see, and that was it, And I think there's a lot of stuff like that that happens, like paranormal experiences, for example. Like sometimes they aren't meant to be photographed. It's just meant for us to, see it with our own eyes, and then our memory is the camera that takes the photo.
Yep. The same with there was a bird that was out, and I've never seen a bird like this out here. I'm always looking for the birds out here, the marsh birds fly through, and there's something different that I didn't have back in Athens, Georgia. And so I'm just mesmerized by them. Well, one day they're usually all white, just mostly white birds. Okay.
Um,
And so one day I'm in the kitchen again, and I go, what in the world? I thought it was a black trash bag. I thought a black trash bag, some kind of trash had flown from the bridge. That's what I thought. And I was thinking, oh gosh, like I gotta figure out how we're gonna get out there. A drone or something can get that from out there in the middle of that tunnel creek. Well, no, it was a bird. It was a bird, and it stayed with its wings spread like this for hours. I don't know how long, like two, three
wow.
hours. It never moved. Um, and it did allow me to take its picture, but not a really good one. I couldn't get it. That's how far out it was. Like my camera, I've got a good camera with a good lens, and I still couldn't get a clear picture of it. It was that far out
It
for
was
me
frightening.
to notice it, for me to notice it. And its common name is a sea raven, but and I'm going to mispronounce this, I know. It's a great black cormorant, something like that. And so then right here by our house, there's a place called the Cypress Wetlands in Port Royal. And it's a rookery where they have it's a bird sanctuary. They come in, and right now it's nesting season. There are alligators there.
Mhm.
Um, I go maybe 2 days after I see this out there, and right at the entrance, I know it's the same one. It was the only one there. All the other birds are white or blue, and this thing was like right there at the entrance. And so there were these two older men, and they're pretty old. They had like benches, like they brought like their little seats that they put out to sit and with their big cameras to take pictures all day long. And I had to get around them on the path. And I was like, "Did y'all see that?" And one of the guys goes, "That the sea raven?" He goes, "That's odd. That's really odd for that thing to be right there." And then,
Birds are really intelligent. They're very, very intelligent. So much more than people give them credit for.
yeah, but for me, and maybe everybody else there saw the same thing too, and maybe the bird wasn't there for me, but it is for me. Like it was
Yeah.
a reminder to me because of what I was going through that day. I'm not going to share, but that day I was going through something, and that bird was out there, made me, I cried and thought, it's here for me. It's here to remind me of something, I'm in the right place. I'm on the right path. I'm, in the right layer of this onion of my life.
Yeah.
And then I see it again right at the entrance of the sanctuary in
That's
the
crazy too, is that you saw it twice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really crazy. That's kind of how it's been here. I see a red cardinal every day,
Yeah.
and it every day it shows up, and I'm sure it's the same one. And it's very strange because I'll be out there with my plants and I'll be whistling, and I've noticed that it calls back when I whistle. It'll call back to me. And at first, I thought I was just overthinking it. I was like, oh no, like it's just coincidence, like it's just lining up. But it was getting to where I could time it, where I'd start whistling, and now even if the red cardinal's not around, it'll show up. Like it knows my whistle,
No,
and it
just
shows up,
yeah,
and it shows up to hang out in this little tree right by the porch.
I love
It is
that.
insane. Birds are just so fascinating to me. In the past like year, I've been getting really into bird watching, and gosh, they're just amazing creatures.
Well, tell me about like deja vus that you've had.
Yeah, I've actually been having a lot lately. So it's funny that, when we were talking about the different themes to talk about, I think when you had texted me that we were going to be talking about deja vu, I had just had deja vu, like maybe the day before or like a few hours before. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is really funny. Um, I'm trying to think of what it was. I mean, it happens so much where I'll be somewhere and I'll just know that I've been here before, or I'll be having a conversation with my husband and I'll remember that I've had this conversation before with him. There's a gym that we've been going to, and I swear I just remembered the other day that I had a dream about that gym and the owner of that gym like months ago. Like that he was talking to me and my husband in the dream, and we met him, and I was like, this guy looks super familiar. We've never met him before. And then it just dawned on me the other day that he was in this dream where my husband and I were just having a conversation with him in the parking lot. And I pulled up into the parking lot of the gym the other day. It was like I had a deja vu moment where I like remembered, and it was so bizarre. But I've always heard that deja vu it has a lot to do with the idea that we're in a multiverse. And when you have deja vu, it's like your consciousness is locking into like a new timeline. And that's why you kind of have like that premonition of like something already happening, because it already did happen on
Right.
a timeline. And some people say that it's even a gift to be given like another opportunity to do something different.
To
And
read.
that's kind of like why we feel this sense of familiarity, like, oh, I've been here before, this has happened before.
It kind of makes me think of the Led Zeppelin song, the music. Yeah. It's like, yes, there are two paths you can go by, but in the long run, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, but there are, I mean, and so it's like, no matter what, we're going to end up where we're supposed to be, but we might just get off course a lot,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's like taking a train, sometimes you accidentally get onto the wrong train, and, you have to get on the one back home, and it happens, but
Great
you're always
analogy.
going to end up where you need to be. And I think even sometimes those mistakes or the things that we perceive as mistakes are actually, there's lessons in them. They're either blessings or they're lessons. And there's something to be gained from everything, even when we feel like we've messed up in certain periods of our life, or when we think back to things, we're like, oh, I wish I would have done things differently. I think all of those things have their place, and they shape us, and they kind of contribute to who we are today.
Yeah, definitely. I've made some wrong choices, even with other people, how I've gone about getting, taking this path that I've, from Athens, Georgia to here. And in that, going through a healing process, I did a whole lot of research on a topic. We were talking about narcissistic abuse earlier, if
Yeah.
we started recording. And I feel like I called people out when really like that trauma needed to happen for me to course correct my own path. Like that
Mm-hmm.
friction needed to happen because nobody has it good all the time. And if you do, I mean, I don't know. I think then you're gonna,
Probably suppressing something.
yeah, exactly. Like, no, but and I think, gosh, I wish I didn't do it the way I did it. I wish I just kind of kept myself quiet more, or, but it's okay now. It's all right. But
You were
yeah,
doing the best that you could in that moment,
right.
And I can relate to that so much. I mean, there's been times where, I'll get really emotional about something, or I'll get really upset about the way somebody's treating me, and I'll come off very harsh, maybe harsher than I intend. And then I'll look back and I'll be like, oh, well, maybe I could have worded that differently. Maybe I could have been a little bit more gentle. Maybe it would have been received better if I would have been a little bit more gentle with my presentation, and we can only do what
Yeah.
we can only do things with the level of consciousness that we have in the moment, and we learn and we grow, and, we look back and we reflect. So,
Hmm. I'm trying to think. I put on my Facebook this morning that I've been waking up at 5:55. Here's my notes. I write notes on everything around the house. But the last at least 3 days, I have woken up and I'll like reach over, pick up my phone, see what time it is, and it's 5:55. I don't know what that means, but but when I see those numbers, I'm just like, okay, go ahead and get up. Like don't just roll back over. Like there's a reason to get up. And I've enjoyed getting up. I'm alone. I can have that time. I take the dog out. I go and look at the garden. Got some weird things happening in the garden. The squash is growing weird. I'm having to pick off bad squash, even little baby ones, and just throw them away. But they grow so fast, and I'm like, if I wasn't up that early to get them before because they'll grow in a day.
yeah. Is,
If
is it crookneck? Is it crookneck squash?
Yes, but they're doing weird things. They're doing weird things. Like they've got like vines growing around them. Like they're making their own suffocation vines. I don't know what this.
Huh. It might be the location, because I just put down some crookneck squash the other day, and it was wilted every single day. I would go out there, it'd be sad, it would be wilted, and I moved it next to my zinnias because they like pollinators and stuff. So I moved it next to the zinnias, and I think the zinnias provide a little bit more shade for it. And I've noticed that they've been doing a lot better now that they're kind of in partial shade, which I always thought that squash was good in sunlight, but I guess it's like it likes partial shade.
It's producing a lot, but it's like it's got a split personality. Half of the, half of the plant is growing the most perfect squash, and then the other half, and it really is split down the middle. The right side is doing this, and the left side is doing this. The left side
Huh.
is all perfect, and then the right side, they're really weird. Oh, hold on one second. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show
Okay.
you what's off today to show you. Like it's a little baby. See how little baby. Look at it. It's
Uh,
wrapping like a thing around itself, and it
oh, like
attaches
tendril, yeah.
and it's attached to it. I can't get them off, and it's like suffocating itself. And so
Huh.
I've just been kicking them off because they kind of make me sad. Like, they'll get bigger and they're all like suffocated.
Well,
And
I think that's good that you're picking them off, because it'll just basically tell the plant to produce more, and it may stop doing it because, I mean, they're smart, they're intelligent, so it may stop doing it if it knows that those ones are getting picked off early.
yeah.
So,
That has nothing to do with anything, does it? But the 555, I'm wondering, like, I keep waking up and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just go on out to the garden. And I get them when they're like that size now because I'm like, uh-uh. You're not going to yeah, I'm not going to let you like take over the rest of the plant, so
because I've been seeing 555 everywhere too for the past few days. Because I've also been getting up early. But I'll usually go to the gym in the morning, and I don't know. I just feel like there's something so sacred to being up before the sun, and like going out into the garden and just like seeing all the plants before they, are out in the sun. And I really love mornings. Like I'm a morning person, and specifically when it's quiet and nobody's up, and you're like the only person that's up. You got a nice cup of coffee or tea, like it's been very meditative. I'm the same way. I get up early, and I actually get up around 5:30, and the other day I got up and it was 5:55. So I'm kind of in the same place where I've been seeing 555 a lot. But 5 represents change, so it could symbolize, changes that are happening in life, and sometimes it can represent conflicts as well. But I like to see it as like conflicts that are really pushing us towards change and pushing us towards betterment of ourselves and betterment of our lives. So 5 really is just all around a number of change. That's what I see it as.
I like it. I mean, it just feels good to me. It doesn't scare me or anything. Some people are like, don't even see that. Like I was telling somebody on a text message, I was like, it's crazy. I getting up the last 3 days at 5:55 when I look at the my phone, it is 5:55. Or if I don't look at my phone, walk into the kitchen, the clock on the stove says 5:55. Um, and I like screenshots sometimes and send it to my daughter because they get it. But this person I was texting earlier was like, "That's an interesting time to get up." I'm like, like, no, it really is actually. I guess it's just for me, it's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
some people just don't. They just don't get it. You
yeah.
know.
I
It's
see it
just,
all the time. In fact, I feel like it's strange if I don't see 11:11. Like if I do look at the clock and it's 11:12, I'm like, huh. Like, because I usually do
yeah.
always see numbers like three, three,
Well,
three.
it's really funny. Like it's gotten to where, I mean, it's almost a daily, multiple times a day thing where I see repeating numbers. And I mean, I think that happens to a lot of people with awakening because it's really just reminding us, like, hey, like, remember, you're in your own holographic universe and you're creating. And this is just a reminder saying, wake up to that and continue to remain awake to that, you know?
Well,
Because
and that's what happened with my husband too. Now he sees the numbers all the time and he's sending them to me. I'm like, yes, I know. Yeah, I'm so glad you're seeing them now too. Finally, like it's just, when he started to do it too. And he's like,
that
okay, you're not crazy.
that is one of the telltale signs of awakening is seeing the numbers. I mean, that's something that everybody consistently that I've talked to over the years. And I mean, I've been on this path for over a decade and I've met so many people that they tell me that I see 1111, I see 111, I see 222, 333. I see all these different repeating numbers. I mean, that's just such a universal phenomena that we all go through. And that's another one of those things. It's just like, how is nobody talking about this? Like, how are not more people talking about this? You know, because it's just crazy. But that is one of the things that I've noticed is that's a real big sign for people is the numbers.
Whenever I was little, with my brother, we had like you're so much younger than me, but we had like little wooden people. We called them little people. Maybe that was the name of maybe that's what they were called, the little people. But we had like people, they were wooden, and then they had like houses, and they had farm animals. They were all wooden, and we would build this whole town, like on the floor, like a whole town. And then I was like 5 years older than him. So, yeah, and anyway, I had a radio with a cassette tape in it, and I would record myself. So I would be the broadcast for the town. Like, I was like, let's see, I was like 9 years old doing this. And I would say, "Hello, town of whatever we would call it, It is 2:22 p.m. on a Saturday." And for some reason, when I go back, I've got to find the cassette again. I've got several of the little cassette tapes where I recorded my voice, making like the town's news or whatever. And I always did that as a child. It was like, it's 2:22, it's 3:33. Where are your kids? They're just getting out of school. Like I would, just doing this whole like broadcast for this town. But I thought that was really kind of crazy too, that I would do that as a child.
That is
Said it
that
was 30, or I never said, it's 1 o'clock. It was always 1:11.
That's so funny. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that the other day too, like how we'll do things and we'll kind of tap into these like very intuitive concepts, like before we're even aware of what they are. I was thinking about this the other day with light language and speaking in tongues because that's something that I do. It's a very personal thing. A lot of people will do it online on like TikTok and stuff. They'll do light language transmissions. My practice is more personal. Like I do it with my plants and I'll speak in tongues like with my plants as like a healing modality. And I think back to when I was a kid and I used to sing in a made up language to
Yeah.
my dogs when I was like very little before I even knew what any of this was. I mean, I don't come from like a Pentecostal background or anything because the Pentecostals are known for, speaking in tongues and all of
Right.
that.
My mom's side of the family, all the women in that family, they were, my grandmother, my mom's mom was the oldest of 14.
Wow.
like, and
Oh,
they did the whole speaking in tongues, and she was speaking tongues. But, and I do, like you're saying, like I'll do my own thing. And sometimes I'll wake up the next morning and I'll realize that I did that with my husband, like that I started like channeling or whatever you want to call it. And I don't even realize that I've done that, I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. Like, he saw me do that,
I know it's kind of awkward. Like I'll think about that, like when my husband walks out and I'm doing it like with my plants, then I'll kind of get quiet. I mean, my husband's there, but it's still one of those things that like I think I just need to get more comfortable doing it around people. And but it is one of those things that's a very personal practice. But I feel the same way about that. Like when I was young, before I knew what any of this was, I didn't know anything about speaking in tongues. I just sang in gibberish and in a made up language because it just felt right. And then, gosh, like 20 some years later, I look back and I was like, oh my gosh, I was channeling light language and I didn't even know. I had no idea. But it's like we were talking about, like, there's just this deep, kind of intuitive, timeless wisdom that we all carry. And even if we're not aware of it, we're still expressing it in our lives in one way or another. And I think a lot of people add different layers, things like religion or political affiliations or whatever, all of these different layers of identity. But it's all really just this fundamental core truth that's being expressed through these different lenses, that we're all just using to identify, digest, and understand.
And I think the more that, I don't know why this just came to me, but the more that people like to turn off the outside broadcast or whatever, then the more that they're going to have these things come online for themselves. So,
Yeah.
because if you're bombarded with like the news or, you know, even like radio has there are the ads on the radio, there are the news will come on in segments so that's, some people are like, don't like the new things like the new apps we have like Spotify and the YouTube and all. I'm like, I pay to not have the ads. I pay to not, and I love them. I love these things because I don't have to listen to any outside opinions.
And programs. I mean, that's really what it is, especially with like business marketing. I mean, it's all just programming you to try to buy something or to try to support a cause or to, do this or do that or to identify this way or identify that way. It's like, it's very much just this agenda of constantly being pulled between, different polarities and extremes. But it's just, yeah, it's just better to not have things like ads and all of that. I mean, I know, thankfully, like, we're able to have that luxury, but I do not like sitting through ads either.
So, you
It's
got the fast forward whenever, when I was young, we would always, we didn't have the the kind of YouTube TV and things that we have now where you can put things into a library or you can record a show and then watch it later. We would record, but we recorded on VHS tapes, like big tapes. And then
yeah,
you'd have to get up. We didn't have remote control either. So you had to get up and go fast forward, like push the button and then, oh, you went too far, stop it, go back, whatever.
yeah,
You know, but even then, like get those, ads out of there. Um, on a funny note, I remember when this has nothing to do with what we're talking about at all, but it's just funny. But my dad, I remember saying he knew that the world was going to, he said, hell, when he saw the Playtex bras. There used to be a company called Playtex, and they had the Cross Your Heart bra. And and they had real women on, modeling the bras on the commercial on the television. And he would like block the TV out, and not let me see. He was
yeah,
like, the world's going to hell because you couldn't control it, like naked women on the ads coming up. But just talking about this made me think of like him doing that. That's really
yeah.
cute.
Well, that's exactly I mean, that's another example of it too. Is like the over sexualization of everything. Which I'm all about people being free and expressive. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that, but I just think it's
So
to an extreme where people are just going completely overboard. And it's almost like disrespectful to those who are trying to preserve
Yeah.
themselves and don't really want to engage with that area of expression, you know?
Right.
It's a balance. It's a balance. I think that's a lot of what this whole awakening is kind of drudging up to, is like, where do we find that balance? Like, where do we come to this harmony between, keeping people's innocence preserved, but also still allowing us to explore areas that, help us kind of open up new parts of ourselves, and explore new parts of ourselves safely and healthily. I think that's kind of what this whole awakening has been about, is like finding that middle ground, because it's just been this like oscillating and dancing between two extremes. And I mean, we see this with politics too. It's like people are constantly like just polarized and very extreme. I mean, it's gotten very, very extreme, to where, you almost can't even have a conversation with some people anymore without them just completely barring you out if you have any sort of disagreement with them. It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all.
Well, let's circle back to manifestation, which, the affirmations of your book. And also, I scrolling through your YouTube, I saw where you had a video, and I haven't clicked on it, should have, but where you were going to talk about how you manifested your boyfriend. And
And
now you're married.
now,
Yeah, I would love to hear about it a little bit. I think everybody would. Yeah.
yeah, of course. So I actually made a video 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. It's going to be 3 years. It's just so crazy to think. 3 years ago that I manifested a boyfriend, and my husband is that boyfriend. 3 years later, we are now married, and it's of course, like, marriage is something that is, I think a lot of people, specifically within the manifestation community, like, they approach marriage as this kind of end all be all thing. Like, it's just happily ever after, and it's just rainbows and butterflies. And like, once you find your person, like, that's it. Once you marry them, that's it.
Uh-huh.
But it is a lot of work. Marriage will absolutely test you. Like, it really does show you parts of yourself that you were never, aware of before. And it brings out parts of you that you may not exactly be proud of. Um, and you see parts of your partner that they're not necessarily proud of and that cause friction, and you have to like work through that, and you have to do the work in order to make things stable, and to make things better, and to have the best relationship possible. And it's definitely been like that with me and my husband. We're different, but we're similar. Like, he's just, it's that typical masculine and feminine polarity. It just causes, there's times where we butt heads and we don't see eye to eye, but I mean, overall, like, we really have the same core values, and we agree on most things. And I think that's really what matters at the end of the day, is like, is this somebody that I can do life with? You
Yeah.
know, is this somebody who can be a team player, and who I can be a team player for, and fully trust, and have them fully trust me, to where we can have this really beautiful unification, that not only betters us, but hopefully betters the world too, And my husband's in the process of getting his career going with the military, and he's got a really good deal. I can't really say a whole lot because yeah, his what he's doing, like, he's not really allowed to talk about it. And I'm definitely not allowed to talk about it. So I can't really say a whole lot, but he has manifested a very good gig for himself. And I'm so endlessly proud of him. So endlessly proud of him. And I'm proud to be with him. I'm proud to have such an amazing partner. I mean, he's just so amazing. And we have our bad days, but overall, like, he's just such a fantastic partner, and he takes care of me as a wife, and he inspires me to take care of him as a husband. Like, he just brings out that nurturing aspect in me. And it's just been really pleasant. His family is really wonderful too, and I'm just so thankful that I've been blessed with what I wanted to create in a marriage. I mean, I had been manifesting marriage for, gosh, I want to say probably about a year, or maybe at least 6 months. I just realized, like, this is it. I'm ready to get married. Like, I think I'm ready to settle down. I'm going to start putting out those intentions. And we always have this whole idea in which we think everything's going to unfold, and we have this whole perfect, way, or at least I do, like in which things are going to unfold, and they don't ever end up looking like that, but I still end up getting what I wanted. You know what I mean? Where it's like the universe always surprises me, and life is always in a consistent element of surprise, in the best of ways. So, I mean, I ended up getting everything I wanted in a partner on top of the marriage. He's great. And I'm just very thankful
But
to
you
have.
have worked on yourself so much. You've studied yourself. I think we can only become experts of our own selves, like, so you've been working on yourself so much that in becoming whole yourself, you're filled up enough to where you can give to another person. You can give to someone else, and in that Jerry Maguire movie, like you complete me, something like that. There's a word, a phrase in that movie, but you can do that for him, and you like when you were just saying, like you're so happy for him in his new career that he's building for himself, and he's doing that for himself. He's doing that himself. Nobody's
God,
just
I'm
giving
so proud
him.
of him. I'm really so. I wish I could say more because it really is such a good gig. I mean, he's going to be set up for the rest of his life. Like this position that he's getting into, he's going to be set up for the rest of his life. I mean, even when his contract ends, if he doesn't want to continue it, I mean, I'll support him with whatever he does. I have no attachment to any sort of lifestyle. Like I just want to be with him and I just want to make it work regardless. But regardless of what he chooses, I mean, he has got himself set up for the rest of his life. And for him to want to share that with me and not even to want to share it with me, but also to be doing it for me as a wife. Cause he always tells me like, this is for you, like I'm doing this so that like we can have a good life and,
Yes. Yeah.
so that we can set ourselves up for success. And, he also wants to invest in my YouTube channel and like really propel like, my book and everything like that. He's very thoughtful. He works very, very hard. He works very hard for me. Oh, I'm going to cry.
Well,
He,
I just love this. My daughter just got engaged.
oh, that's so
And
awesome.
it was yesterday. She turned 27. She's like, Mom, it's my Saturn return year and all this is
Mine
happening.
too. It's mine too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Listen, daughter, like I actually film with somebody like your age. I
Yeah,
think
because
that's cool.
I'm 27.
You're 27?
Yeah, I'm also 27, so I'm also entering the Saturn and Aries
Yeah.
return,
Yeah. I
which
love
mine is actually in my seventh house, which is about relationships and all of that. So it kind of it's kind of interesting how it's synchronistically aligned, and even for your daughter as well, because Saturn actually is the planet of marriage. Like it's the planet that represents marriage because it has rings. And that's actually why we use rings as a gift in marriage, is because it
that.
symbolizes that commitment. Because Saturn represents long-term commitments, lifelong commitments, and things that are really locking us in, and that's what marriage does, is it locks us into a commitment. So it's very timely that it's like happening around this time, that the Saturn return is happening, and your daughter's also getting engaged. You may want to tell her that. You may want to tell her that.
She probably knows. But yeah, they went to Italy and then he asked her to marry him. We were all going, he better ask her. If we go on a trip like that, we know this is happening. Bless his heart. Like, 'cause he had to know. We were all like, you better ask.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, so happy, so happy. And I think they'll get married next year, so that we haven't planned it all yet. But
That's how my
he
husband and I are.
hasn't planned it all yet. This is not my wedding, it's hers. But
My husband and I are legally married. We haven't had the full ceremony yet. We plan on doing it after we're a little bit more settled, with his career and everything. Because there's no, I mean, it's like at the end of the day, like I just know I wanted to marry him. He knew he wanted to marry me. We're both kind of non-traditional in that way. So we're like, you know what, let's just go and get it done. Let's just get married. And then we can do all of that later. Like we'll have everything later. We'll be around.
yeah, my husband and I had the smallest wedding. And so in Athens, his family, there's a whole lot of them and there's a whole lot of friends and it's a very small town. And I think people just assumed we were going to have this large wedding. We had a tiny wedding and we sort of fibbed. We told them, oh yeah, after the honeymoon, we'll come back and there'll be a huge party, a huge barbecue and everybody can come. And we never did it. And like 28 years later, I think we're okay. But yeah,
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing is, especially when it comes to manifesting marriage, I think a lot of people get really focused on like the wedding itself of like, oh my gosh, I want to have this big extravagant wedding and I want to, be with this like perfectly attractive person that is like everything that I could possibly want. And they get really caught up in that and they kind of forget about like what marriage really is. Like it's not just a wedding. That's just one day out of the entirety of your lives together. I mean, it's a commitment. It really is in sickness and health and, for richer, for poorer, like it is the ultimate commitment to one another. And I think a lot of people forget that and they get really caught up in the image. They get really caught up in the details of like the perfection of it. And I think that's why so many people, end up being with people who don't necessarily treat them the best, and they don't end up having that relationship that they initially maybe pictured or wanted because they were focusing on all of the wrong things. And they got that, they got the big wedding, they got the extravagance, but they didn't necessarily get the partnership that they were maybe wanting or looking for because they weren't focusing on it. Because manifestation is all about your focus and like where you're placing that focus. So I think that that's always one tip that I give to like clients, when I'm talking to them about manifesting a partner and manifesting marriage is like, you know, who is it that you're going to want to have by your side? Like when your parents are sick or, when you're too depressed to go and fill out the paperwork, of, if somebody's like in the hospital or something like when things are really bad, like who is it that you're going to want by your side, to support you, to be there for you, not like worrying about their fantasy football game, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Cause there's a lot of people who just are very thoughtless and they just don't think about how their actions are impacting their partners. And, I think that's something to really consider when manifesting a long-term relationship is, manifesting somebody who's going to be there and to be that support and be considerate and loving and committed,
yeah. Well, I'm real sure that I manifested this little house here. Like um, I told myself, like I know that I'm gonna live in a little house. I don't want a big house anymore. I want a little house. I wanted two master suites with a room in the middle to meet in the middle. And
Mm.
exactly pretty much what we have, sort of. We need to work on a little bit of the house, but, and I always wanted like just a, a pool, like, look out and then you've got like a pool and then water. Like I could see this, like I've already seen it before. And that's exactly what's about to happen out back, in the backyard.
I
Um,
know. That's
you
so
know,
awesome.
and years, and this is like the tiniest little thing. It's 1,130 square feet, this little house. But when you pull into the front and then the driveway, it's like it's in three sections. The very first section is like going back to grandma's, like from my South Georgia, growing up at my grandma's house. It's all big azaleas that are taller than me, that have been
Oh,
here
wow.
forever. And then there's like the next section has got to be worked on, but I can just already envision what I'm going to do there. There's going to be a circle drive. There's going to be the garage over here. There's going to be a little cottage built out front for my kids to come and stay. Like I already know it's here. And then that little house with the water view and the pool all
And the
happen.
crab.
Yeah. And coming across the bridge, so this bridge where I live, so it's talking about your husband and his military stuff. I'm hoping that y'all end up here. So I live right, I could, ride my boat over to Paris Island. I can see Paris Island from my back porch. Um, for years, delivering pickles here. We'd always have to go into Beaufort, South Carolina to deliver to stores. And we'd cross the Russell Bell Bridge, which is the bridge right here at my backyard. That, and every time we'd cross it, I would say, sometimes I would say I said out loud one time, I said out loud one time to Finn, I said, I wonder what it would be like to live right there. And right where I pointed is right where this house is. I wonder what it'd be like to live right there. And I think now I'm like, I said that. I said it out loud, but I always just felt like I was supposed to be here. So times when we were in Athens and I would feel like I needed to get a break. I needed to go have some time alone, listen to some music, get out and see just get a drive in the country. It's 4 hours from Athens to here. And I would do that in a day and drive back home.
Wow. That's a nice drive though. I feel like a 4 hour drive is like the perfect amount.
But I would do that. I mean, I would come all the way here and just spend maybe 30 minutes just sitting in this area here, and then I'd drive back home. I did it so many
Wow.
times. Yeah, and now like I live here. I know I was supposed to be here. And I get asked all the time when people meet me here, like for the first time, they're like, "Well, how did you end up here? Or how did you know you were going to be here?" I'm like, I just knew. I just knew. And I was telling you before that our house in Athens even had like a lot of art from here. Like it was Gullah art. It was
Mm.
paintings of the town that I live in now. So, really cool, really cool. Even the day, like the first day we came here to look for a place to rent last June, um, I had all these addresses written down from like Zillow of places that were for rent or for sale, and we looked all around right here in Port Royal, and then we went out to this one address that we went out to that was more like out, like in the bigger town of Beaufort, which is not a big town, but but not here in Port Royal.
Mhm.
And we didn't really know where we were. And I said, well, at least we'll just go get some lunch at Fish Camp. Let's put that back in. I thought Fish Camp was way out, like another area. Like I thought it was out towards like Fripp Island. I know you don't know the area, but it would be like going in the opposite direction of here
Oh, okay.
where we started, like where we first started, and then we went and looked at houses and on into Beaufort, and then I was like, well, let's go out to Fish Camp, and I'm thinking it's going to take us another 30 minutes, like away from here. Now we put it in the GPS, and we were looking at each other. I'm like, it's taking us right back to where we started in Port Royal, and
Wow.
and so we ended up here, and now, I mean, Fish Camp is sort of like, it's just right over there. Like we live right where it was like, no, 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 you're going back. No, 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 you're not supposed to even look over here. You're supposed to be back here. So
Like a
it was,
magnet.
yeah, it was like a magnet. Yeah. And I've heard, I haven't really looked into it a whole lot, but people here say it's a vortex, like of people that that know, like a lot of awakened people live here. I'll
Wow.
just say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was how Austin was. When I lived in Austin, Texas, it was exactly like that. It was like a vortex and it like drew people there who
Yeah.
kind of had this like, awakened spirit. And I was gonna say it might be all the hoodoo that's there too. I mean, that
Yeah.
might have opened up some kind of portal or some kind of vortex that draws like-minded folks, over to inhabit there.
I didn't know it was going on, but when I was clicked on Facebook last night, I saw that the town of Port Royal right here had a little um, ceremony they did yesterday or the day before. It wasn't like Memorial Day. It was like for the Gullah. It was for the Gullah culture, and they have I got to go see it, but they have a plaque they just installed, and it was to honor and to remember that culture. Yeah.
Wow, that's really awesome.
I got
That's
to go
really
there too.
awesome. You should check it out.
Actually, when we get off this call, I'll probably go over and check it out on the golf cart in a little while. But
Yeah, that's a great way to spend. That's a great way to spend the day.
uh, why not? I swear I feel like I'm on vacation every day, but I'm still working and doing things and creating. But it's like vacation every day.
Yeah, it's like at your own pace. And I mean that's what I think a lot of people are working towards is to have that freedom of time and ability to maneuver and choose when they work and do everything on their own terms. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are trying to manifest that. So, I mean, you've done it, and that's really awesome.
I think, oh, we did a thing on Atlantis before.
Hmm.
Well, there's a little beach here. It's on a river, so it's not like an ocean beach, but it's I love it. It's called Sands Beach right here in Port Royal. And it's been closed for a while because they were putting in a new like boardwalk to it, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So riding around, we kept seeing this girl with a shovel just in the grass, like not near the beach, not near, and we're like, we rode our golf cart out. They were like, what are you doing over here? We'd seen her before and then we saw her a different day. We're like, okay, we got to go ask her what's up. She said, well, the beach is closed, so I'm digging for shark's teeth here.
Wow.
And it's like, you're like, here? Like it could be like in my backyard. And she knew we were putting in this pool. And she's like, oh, I want to go whenever they're digging the pool because I'm sure there's a lot of stuff there. I'm like, really? She didn't show up. Um, but she was showing me that day, it was a shark's tooth like about that big, like in the middle here. And she said, yeah, they're everywhere here. And she said, you can tell how old they are because of the lightning strikes on them. You can see all the little white, like big white streaks through them. And
Hmm.
I said, yeah, like they're from Atlantis. And she went, yep, like, yep. Anyway, I
Wow.
just thought it was really cool, you know?
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that that ocean is the Atlantic Ocean,
Yep.
you know? I
Yeah.
mean, it's all connected. It all connects. I was reading a book that was talking about how the British Virgin Islands are, they were once the summits of mountains before the tides shifted and before the poles shifted. And, you know, all of that water just completely submerged those continents.
I believe it. I believe, like I've heard of, here I go on these tangents, but I heard like the Appalachians, going up through, yeah, was Laurasia, where it was, and I think that's why up in, I know in North Carolina and Virginia, in the state parks there's a lot of ginseng. They don't let the people get to it. But we buy our ginseng from China or whatever, but I think it's because I mean it was all
It was all connected at one point. I think that the Appalachians actually used to connect to the Scottish Highlands. It was all one long mountain range before it split up. That whole continent
yeah,
split
up
up.
there in North Carolina there are a whole lot of Scots Irish like churches and communities and all. I'm very interested in all that kind of stuff. So I'm going up to Lake Burton. So I have we get 4 months out of the year. So we've got June, September, December, and January. So we'll be up a lot. I'll be up there a lot, and then I can go up there and kind of
Investigate.
yeah, do some gallivanting. Because I just see it. You just see it. Like where other people are like, oh no, they don't. Like not everybody sees what
And it's hidden in plain sight. I mean, it's right
is.
there, but
Yeah,
it's for the trained eye. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
I guess. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And I have this old phone that I can't get, that I got locked out of because I typed in the wrong password too many times. So I've got to take it back to Apple so I can get back into it. It has so much research that I did on all of that in that phone. And that's why I still held on to it. I'm like, I've got to. I
You
can't
should. Yeah,
get.
you should get access to all of that.
uh, so it's all there. But so I wrote down this morning the shark's teeth. For some reason, I wrote that down. So I thought that was cool about this area. And then something I was telling Finn, I was like, like we're talking about deja vu, and I've got this weird way that I see it. And he's like, of course you do. Tell me about it. Now he listens to me about these things. So I said, to me, it's like, when you take a picture of, say, if you took a picture of, this, my house and the whole yard, but then I cropped out to where you only saw the door. So it's just the door.
Hmm.
I was like, that's like right now, that's that little piece, like the deja vu piece, like where you are now. But if you zoom out, you see all the other things. So I think deja vu is like just that, oh, that little speck of like what was already always there, Like it's a memory that was already there. It's already happened. It's all part of the same big picture.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, yeah, and I was actually gonna say it's interesting that you personify it as a doorway because like that's kind of what I've always seen deja vu as is like a doorway to another timeline, where you're being
Yeah.
given an opportunity to change the future or change the past in some way. So that's an interesting analogy. I like that because that is how it kind of feels. It's like you have it and then you almost kind of remember. I don't know, at least for me, like I'll remember what happens like 2 to 3 seconds after that. Like when I'm in that moment of remembering, it's like more and more memories will come to me and it's just kind of it becomes more clear. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, everything here too, like say this house, like even just the day where I felt the deja vu where he said, we're thinking of putting a crab dock out there, you know.
Mhm.
I was like, no, I remember you saying, there's our crab dock. Like, not we're thinking of putting a crab dock. So I know that's already going to happen. It's already happened. Like, can I just step over there yet? But
Yeah.
and today when they were digging dirt around the pool and smoothing it all out, we just mentioned to one of the guys, not even the guy who just did this today. It was like one of the other guys that was working here. We said, yeah, we found when some of the weeds died out on the bluff, we noticed we have more land than we thought we did. It sticks out further because it was all kind of overgrown. But
Mhm.
I said, gosh, I hope we can like maybe add some dirt there, maybe so we could have like this lookout. We can see the sunset better. And I look out this morning and they did that. Like they just put this dirt out there. We have the lookout now. Like,
Wow,
like
you spoke it into existence.
no. I sent a picture to Finn. I was like, look, it's done. Like it's there.
Wow, that's really awesome. Yeah, it's like you say it and then it just takes a little bit for 3D to conform and then
Yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Well,
But
that's another thing about manifestation too, is like I think a lot of people get really caught up with the waiting and it's just we're impatient. And I think that's the lesson in manifestation is patience and learning to just trust the process and ride the wave, while 3D kind of makes your desired a reality. Sometimes there's a gestation period. Nature has a gestation period, like when you plant a seed, it takes a little while for that seed to sprout into a teeny sprout, and then it goes forth and continues to create itself. It's the same thing with our desires. When we put out intentions, there's a gestation period. We have to kind of wait for 3D to morph it into being. And sometimes, there are certain manifestations that take a little bit longer than others, like building something. Like you idealize something, you draft up something architecturally, and then you have to wait for the builders to create it, before you can enjoy it. It's the same thing with all of our desires. So I think that's really interesting that you mentioned, kind of having to wait for them to build everything out. Because I think that's kind of how a lot of people feel about, when they're waiting for money to come in or where they're waiting for a relationship or something. They don't have that physical evidence like builders. They're building the deck or whatever. So it can be kind of harder for them to trust that process, but it's no different. It's all the same thing.
no. And also, it was supposed to be like really nasty weather and raining this whole time. And we were like, oh, Finn's like, he's like constantly checking the weather apps all the time. And I really don't. Like, I will like look at it, like just, I like to check and see what the weather's like where my daughters are and what the weather, but I know what the weather's like where I am because I'm here. So I really don't check it that often. But it has not rained. And we were thinking, he was like, oh, they're not going to be able to work on the pool at all this week. It's going to take forever. Blah, 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 blah. They should have worked last Friday when it was sunny and, whatever. I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. They did so much work today. But you were talking about seeds and gestation just now. And I wanted to show you like, the flip calendar I was pulled out earlier to
Yeah.
today. It's like, I can't make it up. It says, this is today, May 27th. It says, all that exists. I can't say that. All that exists is the seed of what will emerge from it. Oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Aurelius, I don't know how to pronounce that. Never heard of it.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I read this morning to Finn. I was like, it's kind of like that big picture too. It's like everything kind of sprouts out like from it, kind of branches out
Mhm.
from that seed. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
That's a really interesting analogy because it really is like everything that's going to happen in the future is just from the present moment, which is the seed,
Yeah.
just like an ever exponential growth process.
Yeah. Next thing I want to do with you some other time, a film about, because I think that we've gone crazy on this one, is
Yeah.
about DNA. Uh,
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah, I would love to do something about DNA because I'm just learning about it more. 5 years ago, I didn't even know what DNA was. It's like whenever I first started the pickle company, and I was on Twitter one day, and it was like 2009, and some lady tweeted to me. She said, "You need to have a blog." I had to go to like the not dictionary, but like Google, like, what is a blog? Like, that's all that,
Yeah.
what it was. And so then I had a blog, but you know, um, yeah, like I don't know what that is. And also that same year, somebody said, "You're so good at social media." I was already, t on Twitter and Facebook were the two things at the time, and maybe LinkedIn. And I still didn't know that was social media. So like, what is that?
What
Like,
did you think social media was?
I don't know. I never thought of it. I just never thought about it at all. It was somebody at church at the time said that to me. You're so good at social media. Like, I'm thinking about socializing and like, I don't know. But it was just really funny. I remember like going home and like, what is social media? Like, oh,
And then to hear
I
how
am
you
good at it.
yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
That's pretty funny.
But I did write down about DNA this morning, something that I heard somewhere, and it said DNA is living memory.
Mm, I like that.
Yeah. So, what we believe we are and believe we can do affects our DNA.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That'd be a great topic too, is like talking about how we can manipulate our own DNA with our thoughts
Our
alone. I mean, we can
thought.
just, the way we think completely alters our DNA. I mean, people's trauma alters their DNA. There's experiences in life that people will have that will completely alter their genetics. I think a lot of people, and specifically like within the scientific community, a lot of people see DNA as like this fixed thing where it's just like, you have these genetic disorders or you have this genetic condition, and that's that. It's set in stone. It is what it is. And, people end up feeling very powerless over themselves, but they don't realize that they can heal many of these conditions with just their thoughts alone and changing up their lifestyle habits and their behaviors and the way that they think about themselves. I mean, we can heal so many things with the mind. It's so powerful. Mind over matter, you know?
Matter. Yep. Well, this will be really fun to edit and try to figure out like what the topics really were.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like manifestation, deja vu is a
Yep.
big.
Yeah. But they're real. They're real. And even like there's so many different topics that I see other YouTubers and they argue back and forth and they it's this is set in stone this way and manifestation is not real and they're what
Yeah.
like and they're calling it the manifestation community and I'm like, well, I'd rather be in that community than the one that's like the negative, like it can't happen until you do everything properly. Or, I'm not doing everything right and I manifested this. Right.
Well, exactly. Like that's the problem is the gatekeeping. Like a lot of people
Yeah.
tend to gatekeep with this stuff and they're like, you have to do this and you have to be vegan and you have to have this lifestyle and you have to, do yoga every day. And like, there's just these like rules that people put and all of those things are just beliefs. And at the end of the day, manifestation is simply, just it boils down to our beliefs. So if somebody believes that they have to do these things in order to be a successful manifester, then that's what's going to be created in their experience. But I think the problem is a lot of people go and they project those limitations onto other people and they're like, no, you have to do it my way or you're wrong.
Yeah.
And
Uh-uh.
that's like where I think a lot of the kind of negativity from the manifestation community comes from, because it has kind of birthed a negative reputation for itself. Like, I will be honest. And that's why I put out content about it, because I'm trying to kind of reshape people's thinking about manifestation and help them understand that, like, this isn't just a community thing. Like, this is an everyone thing, and we can all do this. And there's different ways in which we can all succeed with this. It's just about finding the way that works for you and sticking to it and running with it.
And for me, it wasn't something that I said, oh, I'm going to manifest that house over there. It was just something that I believed for myself. I just believed that that's what I knew that I wanted. It's what I knew I would be comfortable in the town that I knew that I felt like it was my place. Like everybody I run into here, I'm like, these are my people. This is where I'm supposed to be. And this is where I'm going to be. So I just believed it. So it wasn't some like weird, I didn't go, I will have that house,
Yeah, like you have to go and like say it like 3 times every day under the
right.
moonlight.
But I did come here before I even made an offer on the house. And it was snowing here, believe it or not. We had snow.
Wow.
And I took pictures of it like I lived here. I went ahead and we actually cooked dinner here because we had the key to get in. We cooked dinner here and ate here one night, and I hid in the kitchen drawers like some of my things, like my teacups and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, when I come over there, like until it's mine, I'm just gonna have my things and like do. And I
Oh, yeah.
told the I told the person that we bought it from. I, he was here one day when we were looking at it, and I said, and this is after it was under contract. And I said, yeah, I'm going to do a complete land healing here and everything. It's like mine. It's mine.
Yeah. Claim to that end. You're impressing your energy on it.
Yeah. And he said, wow, I love this. And then he starts showing me his bracelets that he wears like,
Oh, the crystal bracelet. That's so funny. That's sweet.
look, you never know. Like,
People are peppered everywhere. I mean, there are so many awakened people across the globe, and it's just so refreshing when you come into contact with some of these people out in the wild, and just like
people out in
meeting
the
them.
wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and just meeting them in person is so refreshing. Like, it's just one of those things that just makes life worth living, you
Yeah,
know?
it does. Like, I'll never forget that day. I'm like, yes.
But
And
yeah,
then,
it's like Carol Goddard says, like, just act as if, know it into being. Once you know something and you embody that within your actions, within your behavior, not allowing other people's projections to limit that and to, once again, like we were talking about earlier, like box ourselves in. Like when we take up space and we say, nope, this is mine. I am claiming this. Like you claim that
yes.
land, you claim that home. Like, you affirm that and you make that real, and then it becomes real. It's created in your experience. It's law. I mean, these things are spiritual laws, and they're just as real as things like gravity.
Yeah.
You know?
And one thing, this is a kind of a crazy story. It just came to me to tell you. I've meant to tell you this before. Um, but even like just synchronicities, knowing that this was supposed to be where I was supposed to be. I
Mm-hmm.
when I found out that we were going to get it, like we put the offer in and it was accepted, but then there was the waiting period, whatever. I went ahead and I wanted to get some mail here, at my new address. So I ordered some magazine subscriptions. So I would come over every day, like checking to see if any of them had come. Just I wanted to have mail with my name on it with this address. And I know that seems silly, but I was excited. Here I'm 52 years old, excited about having like a piece of mail at a new house with my name on it. But I did that. And so one day I was just over. We hadn't moved in yet. It wasn't legally mine. And I'm at the end of the driveway and I think I'm going to check the mail. And I looked down at my phone, pick it up. It was 2:22. And I have proof of this. I screenshot and sent it to Finn and told him, I was like, look at this. Up in the upper corner of my phone, sometimes my phone will be on a setting where it'll put like a picture of the day, like right there.
Uh-huh.
It was the picture of me and you when
Oh, the
the
collage we made.
Yeah, where it was like you on your laptop and
Yes.
mine. Do you,
Yes. Yeah, I
and
remember
it
that.
said nature is technology. Yeah, that was what was in in the corner. Okay, and it said like nature is technology with Hannah or with Angie and Hannah. And then I go to the mailbox, and in the mailbox was it's nothing for me, but it was. It was a where it was like from the post office saying we missed you. It's something that somebody had to sign for, and it was a girl's name, Hannah, that that lived here before and that she needed to sign for it. Well, I sit in the car and I look up on Facebook. I'm like, surely this person's around here. And I look up the name that was, I'm not going to say the last name, but but I look up Hannah so and so, on
Yeah.
Facebook just to see if I can find out who it is. I start like almost in tears. I had the chills and everything because just a couple of nights before, we were at a restaurant that started carrying my pickles. And this girl was the bartender.
What a small world, Angie. That is crazy.
Found out it's a very sweet story. But she lived here. And the room that I call mine, that is like my special room, was her room. And it's a little uncomfortable for her a little bit because, this was a very special place. And I think that they didn't
Mm.
really want to have to sell it. And her dad died. And I really want to find out, like, if he planted a bunch of the plants here. And the last time I saw her, she asked if the swing that he put, the rope swing, was still in the tree. I will never get rid of that rope swing. You
Hmm.
know? Anyway, do you see? I mean, it's real,
It's very real.
Yeah.
And when it finds you, it will not let you ignore it,
Uh-uh.
no matter how hard you try. And people try. I mean, there's a lot of people that I've known in my life that they shut it out, they shut it out, they shut it out, and it just gets bigger and bigger and
Or
bigger.
you
And so
gotta
they
get
have
more.
to just release and let it in. And I think that's what's happening to the world right now. I think that's why we're seeing so much turmoil, so much anger and rage. And it's all of these things coming up in people's lives. And I think the world is still kind of in a place where it's not fully ready to accept it yet. So it's still in that denial stage. And I think it's just going to keep becoming more and more pressing. Like these concepts and these things that we're talking about are going to become much more mainstream. They're going to continue to be in everybody's faces and say,
Yeah.
"Look at me, look at me for
Yeah.
what I am," until people face it. And I think once that happens, I think we'll see a major release in society, where things just become a lot more peaceful and people can kind of accept one another's differences. And I have a lot of hope for the world, and I have a lot of hope for humanity, and that's where it starts, because there's a lot of propaganda around, like, you know World War III and like all of these really awful things. And I think all of that stuff is just a timeline. It's just a singular timeline.
Right.
It's up to us to decide where the world is going, and we do that one step at a time with things like this, the conversation that we're having, and we're posting it online for others to see. Those people are going to go forth and have conversations in their lives that spark inspiration in others, and so on and so forth. And it's just this ever continuous journey of lighting one another's torches, which really just inspires me to believe that the world is absolutely on a fast track to world peace. Like, I believe it. It's inevitable. World peace is inevitable. Like, we are going to see it in our lifetime. And I fully believe that with all of my being. And people can call me kooky. They can call me crazy. I don't care. Like, I don't need other people to validate me for me to
Either.
believe this is true.
No, it's a knowing. I used to need the validation. Well, maybe not the validation, but I would just be quiet about what I believed. And
Yeah, like the acceptance, or for people to be like, you know what, like, I respect that. But it just comes to a point where you just have to be like, you know what, like, your opinion is yours, and that's fine, but I do not accept that into my core belief system. I'm going to just choose to reject that, you know.
love it. No, it's true. Well, I think that we should end it somewhere.
Yeah, I think this is a good close. I think this is
Yeah,
a
good
really good close.
close. Thank you so much. I love you so much, and I love that you showed up with those zinnia in your hair. And
Thank you. It was very impromptu, and I'm wearing a shirt with cherries on it, so I was
I
like,
love it. Yeah.
it's red. It was like it goes. And it bloomed yesterday, so I was like, you know what? It's
Pretty.
gonna wilt anyway. So I had it in a vase, and I was like, I'll just put it in my hair today.
I, back in Athens, I had so many zinnias, and we planted a bunch here, but then now they've all been dug up when they were working on the pool. So
They're breathtaking. I'm so happy that I planted them this year. I'll never go another gardening season without planting them
yeah.
again. They're incredible.
And they're great, like you were saying, for pollinating the vegetables too. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I love you.
I
All
love you
right.
too. It
Seeing
was
is
very
believing. I mean,
nice.
if I didn't see things coming to fruition as much as I am seeing it and as quickly as it's happening, I might not have believed, but there's no there's no way it's not for
Yeah.
real. Yeah.
Seeing is believing, and believing is seeing. Seeing things until they come into fruition.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.